This is Lesson 9 in a Grammar for Biblical Hebrew. This narrated presentation is about pronouns. In Hebrew as in English, a pronoun is simply a word used instead of a proper or other noun to designate a person or thing already mentioned or otherwise known. That is, whenever you can just say he instead of Jim, them instead of the Israelites or whatever. Pronouns are frequently used. In fact, Hebrew probably uses pronouns more than English does. That is, Hebrew uses pronouns in places where in English we would prefer to use a proper noun because there's some ambiguity. So how might we restate the following? Moses spoke to the people and the people heard Moses. We would say Moses spoke to the people and they heard him. They and him are pronouns. Think for a moment of how frequently we do this in English, and then stop and think about how many pronouns must be going on in biblical Hebrew texts as in the texts of any other language. This is by way of warning that pronouns are tremendously important. That I dare say just about every single verse you ever read in the Hebrew Bible is bound to be dragging in some pronouns along the way. So this lesson is for us a very big deal. Hebrew as English will have subject pronouns. That is, there are pronouns we use when that pronoun is the subject of a verb. So I in the singular or we in the plural for the first person. And then what we call the second person, which in English it's you either way, although in some dialectical variants such as you all or y'all, but it's basically you. And in the third person, for the singular we say he or she, and in the plural we say they. So I ate, we ran, you jumped, or plural you jumped. He or she came, they came or entered. These are the pronouns we use when we talk about the subject of a verb. Or the subject of a nominal clause. I am tall. We are great. You are blue, right? On verbless clauses. And then there are the pronouns we use to show the object of a verb. They kicked me. You saw the people saw us. Me and us are object pronouns. In English, the object pronouns for the second person are the same as the subject pronouns. Right? Someone kicked you. Someone saw you. The third person, instead of he and she, we have him or her. And instead of they, we have them. In Hebrew as in English, the object pronouns will be different from the subject pronouns, and we'll need to learn both sets. Pronouns in English always appear as independent words, not as suffixes or prefixes or something similar. Pronouns in Hebrew may be independent. So, for instance, ani melech. I am a king. Ani is the first person singular subject pronoun. Ani melech. I am king. We'll see later, we're introducing, we're showing you things here that are not part of your current knowledge, but just as a heads up in the future. We'll see things like malachti, a suffixed form, which means I am king, or I rule, and possessive forms such as malki, which mean my king. In this lesson, the only pronoun suffixes we're going to be learning are not these that you see here, but we're only going to be putting suffixes, pronoun suffixes onto prepositions, and you'll see that coming right up here. But for the time being, sticking with our independent pronouns, there is the first person singular and plural. The first person singular, ani or anochi. These mean the exact same thing. It's just two forms of the same pronoun. Ani or anochi means I. Anachnu means we. We'll see this e ending from ani or anochi in suffixes like my name, shemi, my book, sifri. Note the nu ending in anachnu. These are not suffixes here. These are just whole words. Ani is a whole word with no suffixes. Anochi is a whole word with no suffixes. Anachnu is a whole word with no suffixes. But later when we see suffix forms of pronouns, they're going to look a lot like this. So we're just getting a heads up on what we're going to be seeing. What about the second person pronouns? Well, you've got masculine singular and plural, and you've got feminine singular and plural. So the masculine forms are ata, you, and plural atem, you, plural, you all. The feminine forms are at, singular, you, and either aten or atena, for y'all. So to split this a different way, you've got the singular forms ata and at, masculine and feminine, and the plural forms, masculine and feminine, atem and aten or atena. Note that these all have a tav in them. All these second person forms are marked by a tav. And then the third person forms, hu, which means he or it, and he, which means she or a feminine it. And then they, in the masculine, is heim or heima, with a m sound, like Mary, and they, feminine, heina, with an n like Nancy sound. So, he is king, hu melech. She is queen, he malcha. They are kings, heim mulachim, or heima mulachim. They are queens, heina malchut. Note that the third person in Hebrew is marked by a he. Hu, he, heim, heina. Just as, arguably, in a sense, it is in English. So consider these verbless clauses. Ani Adonai, I am Yahweh. Hu Melech, he is a king. Melech Anochi, I am a king. Achim anachnu, we are brothers. In these verbless clauses, formed by a pronoun and a noun, the word order is not rigid. Here's a particular way the third-person pronoun is sometimes used, and it's worth paying attention to. Take this example, Adonai hu ha-Elohim. Means Yahweh is God. Now this could be written just fine without the pronoun. Adonai ha-Elohim. Yahweh is God, or Yahweh is the God. Verbless clause. Hu is included here basically for emphasis. You could paraphrase it as it is here. As for Yahweh, he is God. It's an emphatic way of saying Yahweh is God. Adonai hu ha-Elohim. It's just emphasis. You can see that the this third person usage is fixed when we see forms like Atahu ha-Elohim. You indeed are God. As for you, you are God. It's a second person address, but the third person pronoun is used here, again, in just kind of a wooden, habitual way for emphasis. This is not a frequent construction, simply one that we bring to your attention for when you do see it. So reviewing the first person independent pronouns, anachnu, we, ani or anochi, I. Let's look at some suffix pronouns, which again in this lesson we will only see with regard to the prefixed prepositions l, b, and k, and some others. So for instance, be means in me. The preposition beit plus the suffix e. Think of e as in ani or anochi. Be means in me. Li means to or for me. And just as the pronoun anachnu means we, banu, in us, lanu, to us or for us. We're taking the prefixed prepositions and adding pronoun suffixes to them. What about the third person forms? Well, the third person forms are marked by he, who, and he, heim or hema, and heina, he, she, and they. The second person forms were all marked by tav. At for feminine, ata for masculine, aten or atena for feminine, atem for masculine. However, in the suffixed forms, these second person forms are not marked by tav at all. But through a quirk in the development of the language, instead by kaf. Whereas the third person forms are largely marked by he, just as we would expect from forms like who and he, heim and heina. So let's see them put into action. Just a quick word, you can see that in these third-person forms, although they're often marked by he in these suffixed forms, sometimes the he is contracted out, leaving a vav in the singular form, or only the mem or noon of the hem and hein that we expect in the third-person plural forms. We'll see these in action. So taking the preposition beit, just go ahead and read down. In him, bo. In her, ba. In you, bacha. In you, feminine, bach. In me, be. And then there's the plural forms. In them, bahem. In them, bahen. In you, masculine plural, bachem. In y'all, bachen. In us, banu. Again, some of these have some resemblance to their independent pronoun forms, then that helps. So for instance, first person, ani, is close to the suffix e, be. Banu, in us, might help us think of anachnu, we, right? The first person plural form. Similarly, in the third person plural, heim is close to the independent pronoun they, so bahem in them makes sense. Similarly with the hein in bahen. Instead of the preposition beit, we could have the preposition lamed, and it would be the same thing. To him, lo. To her, la. To you, lecha. To you, lach. To me, li. And then the plural forms. Lahem and lahen, meaning to them. To you, plural. masculine and feminine respectively, lachem and lachen, and then to us, lanu. With the preposition kaf, ka, things are a little more complicated. Most of the plural reads as we expect. Kahem, like them. Kahen, like them. Kachem, and kachen, like you, plural. But we might expect the first person plural, like us, to be kanu, on analogy with banu and lanu. We have this extra mo element. Kamonu, like us. And that mo element appears throughout the singular forms. Kamohu, like him. Kamoha, like her. Kamocha, like you. Kamoch, like you, feminine. Kamoni, like me. This is just for, it's basically an archaic form, and in fact rarely in old poetic texts, even with the preposition lamed, for instance, you'll see something like lamohu, like him, instead of simply lo. But this archaic form is fixed for the preposition kaf, in a way that it's not for the preposition le or the preposition b. What about the preposition min? Well, something similar pertains. Again, let's start with the plural forms. And for a while, things seem perfectly normal. Mayhem, from them. The may is clearly the preposition min, but with the noon trying to assimilate into the guttural hey, not being able to, and so you have compensatory lengthening of the hirek, from min to may. Remember, when you see may at the beginning of a word, look to see if it's the preposition min before a guttural. So here, mayhem, from them. Mayhen, from them. From you, plural, is mikem and miken, respectively. And here you see the noon does assimilate into the kaf. See the doubling dagesh in the kaf. Mikem, miken. But here, where you might expect something like minnu, from us, you have this extra men element that interjects. Men. Before the nu suffix. See the doubling of the noon, right? So so you work backwards. You've got the suffix nu. Then you've got this interpolated element men, giving you menu. And only before that do you have the preposition min. So you can think of it being min menu, but then the noon of the min assimilates into the meme, and you get mimenu, from us. Mimenu, from us. Well, let's see how that plays out in the first column. Look at the top at the third masculine singular. Again, we see mimenu. Well, what's happened here? Well, you've got the preposition min, the interpolated element men, that gives us mimmen, and the suffix here is trying to be the suffix who. Remember the independent pronoun of the third person, who. Like, hu melech, he is king. Hu tov, he is good. Here, the suffix is who, but because it's coming after the min, it just sort of back assimilates. The hey sort of back assimilates into the noon, and instead of mimenhu, you get mimenu. There's no assimilation rule here to be learned. Don't try to learn it as an assimilation rule. This is just something we're seeing in this instance. So mimenu, from him. Similarly, mimenna, from her. The suffix is trying to be ha. Mimenna. And then here just mimecha. There's no, the men element is getting a little bit lost. Mimecha, from you. Mimech, from you, feminine. Mimeni, from me. So the min preposition has this added element in many forms, in much of this paradigm, the men element. And you have this look-alike business between mimenu from us and mimenu from him. Only context will tell you which is which. Here you can see it laid out a little more clearly. Mimen, look at the bottom first, mimen plus the new suffix, meaning us, gives you mimenu from us. Similarly, mimen plus the hu suffix, meaning him, from him, becomes mimenu. So here are the suffixes used with these prepositions. We will start the second part of this lesson with the chart you see here, where we're going to take the same suffixes and add them onto the prepositions el, meaning to or towards, and al, meaning upon.